There are truths not meant to comfort the male ego, and the experiment conducted by David Buss is one of them. He exposes, without anesthesia, how women react to male microbehaviors that the average man doesn't even notice. It is called the dirty experiment not because it's immoral, but because it rubs an uncomfortable truth in every man's face. Female attraction does not come from what you say, but from what you evoke. And most men evoke the exact opposite of what they imagine. They enter interactions trying to please, trying to prove value, trying to be seen as an option. They don't realize they are playing a game that has never benefited anyone. The rejection they carry isn't a lack of value. It is a lack of strategy. It is not incompetence. It is ignorance of the invisible rules of female behavior. What truly paralyzes a modern man is not the woman herself, but the sensation of being chosen or discarded without understanding why. The fear of not being desired settles into the body as a tension that makes you act small. The fear of seeming worthless turns your presence into a request for approval. The pursuit of female validation becomes the axis of your identity, even if you try to deny it. And the more you try to please, the deeper you sink. This is how the spiral of failure is born. You offer intention before offering impact. You run forward when evolutionary psychology requires that a man only advances when the ground is prepared. Robert Greene called this silent power. Attraction is not conquest. It is the invisible manipulation of perception. It is the mastery of body language, rhythm, presence, and subtle signals that show what you represent before you open your mouth. And David Buss proved exactly that. Women respond first to what the man's body communicates when he thinks he is communicating nothing. They perceive internal leadership before explicit leadership. They perceive emotional security before friendliness. They perceive perceived value before romantic intention. Buss's experiment shows that the female first impression is a reading of psychological status, not a moral reading. The tension of this video is born exactly here. Female attraction is not what you believe it to be. It is not kindness. It is not effort. It is not obvious intention. What activates a woman's interest lies in patterns she herself does not consciously perceive. And you are about to understand all of them. Now, what Buss revealed is brutal but liberating. You do not need to change your personality, your appearance, or your essence. You only need to activate the right instinct in her. An instinct far older than any modern narrative about seduction. Throughout this video, we will break down Buss's experiment, the hidden patterns he revealed, and especially the practical application. You will understand the mistake that eliminates your value before the first word. You will see how discreet dominance changes the way she sees you. You will understand why women desire men with options, not men who are too available. And above all, you will learn how to turn presence into magnetism, not theory. Application, not hope. Strategy. This is the point where your identity begins to change. And when you reach the end, you will see female attraction as a mechanism, and you will know how to operate it with precision, the mistake that turns off her interest even before you say anything. When a man enters an environment with the explicit intention of conquering, he is already lost before the first move. Most do not realize that showing interest too early creates a trail of neediness that the female instinct detects instantly. A woman perceives when a man arrives seeking to be accepted, seeking to be noticed, seeking to be validated. That energy reveals that you enter the interaction needing to prove something, and any perceived need is interpreted as weakness. Evolutionary psychology is relentless on this point. Before she evaluates who you are, she evaluates whether you're trying to be chosen. And when she perceives that, the interest fades. The shift begins when you trade intention for presence. You enter the environment without hurry, without expectation, without signaling desire. You observe first. Stabilize your posture. Let your energy fill the space before your voice does. The absence of hurry communicates value. The absence of anxiety communicates control. The work of David Buss showed something few men understand. Women respond to signs of value, not to speeches. In his research from 1989 and 2003, he identified that the female brain looks for subtle signals of emotional stability, inner security, and silent status. It is not about expensive clothes, showiness, or clever lines. It is about what your body says when you are not trying to impress. It is about your speaking rhythm, your relaxed posture, your way of navigating the environment without needing approval. The practice here is objective. Demonstrate emotional independence with simple gestures. Control your tone. Speak slowly. Adjust your posture. Do not deliver anxiety through your eyes. Each microbehavior communicates internal leadership, and internal leadership is read as value. One of Buss's most ignored patterns is the following. Women are attracted to men who seem to have something happening in their lives. It sounds simple, but it is devastating for those who live without direction. A woman is not evaluating only you, but the world you carry with you. She looks for signs of movement, not urgency. Signs of purpose, not neediness. And men who arrive transmitting immediate availability, an empty life, and total focus on or activate the rejection instinct. The man with purpose does not announce that he has an active life. He lets small evidence slip. The rhythm of the body, the focused gaze, a presence that shows internal occupation. The application is clear. Allow your life to show effortlessly, not to impress, but to contextualize who you are. In 2021, researchers from the University of Queensland confirmed this scientifically. Women rate men as more attractive when they perceive signs of implicit status, not explicit status. Exaggeration repels, subtlety attracts. Short remarks about your projects, your goals, your inner achievements have more impact than any self-promotional speech. You do not speak to convince. You speak to situate your energy. The form is more important than the content. When you convey internal movement, her instinct interprets it as value. There's a pattern described by Buss that summarizes the beginning of male attraction, the cold value entry. It is the opposite of anxious enthusiasm. It is the opposite of a guy who arrives trying to be interesting. The cold entry communicates that you are already interesting before any interaction begins. It comes from the absence of hurry, the absence of neediness, the absence of exaggerated energy. It is the posture of the man who is not trying to conquer the environment. He simply belongs to the environment. This triggers the female instinct of immediate curiosity. When you arrive without neediness, value is suggested through silence. When you arrive without urgency, mystery forms naturally. And when you arrive without offering intention, you force her instinct to search for something in you that you did not announce. This is the first moment where the game begins to shift. It is not about being handsome, charismatic, or extroverted. It is about eliminating the silent mistake that destroys your value before the first word. When you master this beginning, you stop being perceived as another man trying to conquer and become a man she needs to decipher. And everything that needs to be deciphered becomes interesting. The dirty experiment of Buss on discrete social dominance. Few men understand the devastating impact of the first seconds of an interaction. Before you speak a single word, your body has already said everything she needs to classify you. Buss's experiment showed that submissive microgestures erase your value before you even have a chance to show who you are. And we're not talking about explicit attitudes, but about almost invisible details. Slumped shoulders, wandering eyes, hurried movements, anxious expression. These signals communicate that you are in an inferior position. And when she perceives that you shrink in front of the environment, interest dissolves. Rebuilding this requires a silent, precise, calculated adjustment. Shoulder blades back, firm chin, stable gaze, and a posture that says effortlessly that you belong there. No word surpasses the body language of a man who does not bow to the environment but settles into it naturally. Buss's psychology goes beyond the appearance of strength. He identified that women are attracted to soft dominance, the kind of authority that does not need aggressiveness or noise. The man who tries to impose himself, who speaks loudly, who tries to dominate through force is read as unstable. But the man who leads the interaction effortlessly creates a completely different magnetism. Subtle leadership is what Buss called implicit social power. Deciding the rhythm of the conversation, choosing topics naturally, maintaining control of your own energy while she follows your movement. It is a silent dance where you guide without her realizing she is being guided. And this ability is born from self-control, not brute strength. The practice is simple. Instead of trying to impress, direct. Instead of filling silence with words, guide through tone and intention. The great mistake of most men is trying to embody an exaggerated alpha archetype. The man who talks too much, tries to be the center of attention, forces presence, tries to show superiority all the time. This type of dominance is repellent because it conveys insecurity disguised as confidence. What truly activates female interest is the silent strategist, the man who observes, understands, and acts with precision. He listens to 80% of the information and speaks only when necessary. His questions are not trivial. They are intentional. He does not try to prove value. He makes the woman reveal herself. This proportion between silence and speech creates an atmosphere of intense, almost enigmatic presence. The silence of a secure man is worth more than any desperate speech, and the female instinct interprets that silence as inner dominance. The University of Rochester in 2017 scientifically confirmed what Buss had been describing for decades. Women find men who demonstrate responsive dominance more attractive. That means strength combined with social sensitivity. It is not harshness. It is not arrogance. It is emotional firmness with environmental awareness. Long pauses, eye contact that doesn't flee, relaxed posture without seeming artificial. These elements create a presence that dominates without needing to control. It is the form, not the volume. It is the rhythm, not the imposition. Male power does not come from a grand gesture, but from the consistency of simple gestures. Whoever dominates his own form dominates her perception. Among the methods that emerge from Buss's analyses, there is one that completely redefines your psychological advantage. The rule of 3 movements. Before opening your mouth, you read 3 factors. First, her posture. Open, close, receptive, defensive. Second, the energy of the environment. Tension, relaxation, competition, safety. Third, the intention of the moment. Is an environment for conversation, for observation, for approach? When you calibrate these 3 elements before speaking, you never arrive misplaced. You arrive adapted. And strategic adaptation is perceived as social intelligence, one of the greatest triggers of female attraction. A man who observes before acting communicates something profoundly rare: clarity. This chapter is the heart of Buss's dirty experiment. It shows that dominance is not brute force, not noise, not showmanship. Dominance is precision. It is reading. It is internal control reflected externally. When you master this level of subtlety, you stop competing with other men. You start competing with her imagination, and her imagination is a territory where true attraction is born. What truly activates female desire? The strategy Buss calls selection by option. There's a point in the dynamics of attraction that silently destroys the image of most men, seeming too available to any woman. When you signal that any female attention is enough for you, you unknowingly eliminate the main evolutionary trigger Buss highlighted in his studies. Women avoid men who display emotional hunger. The female instinct interprets excessive availability as a sign of low social selection. It is not malice. It is survival. The way to correct this is not by pretending disinterest, but by establishing real filters. When you know what kind of woman aligns with your values, your energy, and your life, you stop chasing the attention of just anyone. And that refinement changes the way they perceive you. The man who filters is the man who is worth something. The man who accepts everything is the man who loses. Evolutionary psychology reveals something even deeper. Women are guided not only by individual preferences, but by an unconscious reading of the social value each man carries. Buss called this selection by option. A woman is not only observing you, she's observing how the world responds to you. Men who appear to have options are seen as more desirable because the female instinct associates this with competence, relevance, and social survival. That is why building a rich social life is not luxury. It is strategy, projects, solid friendships, activities that expand you, environments that challenge you. Each element of the set composes the invisible narrative of your value. You become the man who does not depend on female attention to exist, but who receives female attention because he exists fully. At the center of this process, there's a brutal inversion that few understand. Women do not want to be your only option. They want to be the chosen option. Female desire intensifies when she perceives that you do not act out of desperation, but out of decision. She needs to feel that your attention has weight, that it is not distributed randomly. This means controlling your time, controlling your energy, controlling your availability, not to play games, but to communicate that your life does not revolve around her. When she sees that you are the one who dictates the rhythm, the game changes. The man who decides when he appears, when he speaks, when he gets involved, triggers the female instinct of pursuit. Yes, pursuit. When you assume your position, she begins to adjust to your movement. The University of Toronto in 2020 reinforced this mechanism with concrete data. Men who demonstrate emotional independence are perceived as up to 40% more attractive. This is not theory. It is biology. The more you react to her tests with anxiety, explanations, or overjustification, the more you lose value. The more you respond with clarity, calmness, and stability, the more you trigger attraction. A woman tests not to humiliate you, but to measure whether your stability is real or just a performance. And each time you demonstrate self-control, you imprint on her instinct that you are a secure man, not a needy one. There's a technique that synthesizes this entire strategy, the controlled scarcity effect. It is not about disappearing, ignoring, or manipulating. It is about measuring your presence as a valuable resource. You appear consistently, but not constantly. You are available, but not accessible. You exist in her life, but you do not orbit around her. This balance creates mystery, and mystery creates profound attraction. When you control how much attention you give, you control the intensity of desire. A woman becomes invested in what she needs to decipher, not in what is always handed over. This is the moment of maximum tension in the video. If you want to understand how to apply each of these dynamics with precision, if you want to operate bustle psychology in real life, there is an advanced path. In Code of Seduction, I break down the experiments, the proven attraction techniques, the psychological tests, the strategic behaviors, and the routines that shape real masculine magnetism. It is not theory thrown into the wind. It is method. It is behavioral engineering. It is evolutionary seduction applied to daily life. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. This is the kind of knowledge the average man never accesses. But the man who wants to master presence must understand. Conclusion. What David Buss exposed in his experiments is something few men have the courage to face. Women react to social codes so fine, so instinctive, and so precise that most men go their whole lives without noticing they're being evaluated long before they say anything. And it is exactly here that Nietzsche illuminates the central point of this journey. The man who masters himself masters the world. Self-control, presence, posture, strategic silence, emotional independence, and the ability to project value effortlessly are the true engines of attraction. None of this has to do with physical beauty or luck. It has to do with internal structure. After this video, you understand something that transforms your identity. You understand a mistake that destroys your value right at the entrance. You understand the biological mechanism that makes the female brain seek subtle signs of psychological power. You understand the soft dominance Buss revealed, which completely redefines how a woman perceives a man. You understand why female selection favors men with options, not men with desperation. And above all, you understand that attraction does not grow from effort. It grows from presence. It grows from a man who carries purpose. It grows from a man who maintains inner control while everything around him tries to push him off balance. Common men are discarded not because they lack value, but because they lack understanding. They try to prove. They try to please. They try to accelerate. They try to impress. And each of these attempts communicates what truly destroys them: neediness. The man who stands out is the one who acts with strategy, the one who occupies space without asking permission, the one who knows how to observe before moving, the one who recognizes his own value and therefore filters, the one who does not beg for connection but selects connection, the one who understands that male presence is architecture, not impulse. From today on, you will no longer enter an interaction with hope. You will enter with clarity. You will enter with rhythm. You will enter with calibrated intention. Seduction is not a game where the one who tries the most wins. It is a game where the one who understands the invisible rules that govern female desire wins. And you have just seen these rules up close. If you want to turn this understanding into real practice, if you want to master female behavior with precision, if you want to apply advanced techniques, masculine routines, signal reading, micro-gestures, evolutionary triggers, and psychological structures that are never taught on the surface of the internet, the next step is simple. In Code of Seduction, I break down the entire mechanism. The mechanism that transforms ordinary men into magnetic presences. It is not guesswork, not trial and error, not memorized lines. It is method. It is behavioral science applied to masculine magnetism. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. The man who understands this knowledge stops being a spectator and becomes a protagonist. And from this moment on, you no longer walk blind. You walk with mastery.